musky. You got one? Oh, real. I think you actually do got one. Hey, kiddo, you got a pikey one.
White Bear Lake, a new 2,500 acre lake located in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. The lake itself is home to musky, walleye, pike, bass, crappie, and most of the normal species you find in Minnesota. Opening up into the Northwestern Bay, the biggest section of the lake, you have multiple spots that we will get to later on when we end up going into the topographical map. Moving on to the Southwestern Bay, you'll look in front of you and see that the island positioned in front of you opens up into a much shallower region beyond it. This region also we will get to later in the topographical map, but it's home to a lot more topwater action and reprieve from the days when there are many more boats out on the water. With that, you also have the marina to the far top right of the screen currently. Obviously with that, there are many large boats on this lake that can create large waves, which is why this spot, especially early season and midsummer, is a much needed place to be able to fish. Only topping out at 6 feet deep, it is at times a little bit harder to fish. Moving on to the Southeastern Bay, moving out, you have the deepest part of the lake. Topping out at about 80 feet deep, this lake is quite a bit deeper than most of the ones you will experience in the metro area. With that, you do have a large amount of range for muskie to chase after fish who school up in deeper water. This lake does have quite a few crappie in it, and with that being said, in the summer months, try to chase in the basins and find out where those crappie are schooling up, and you will be much more successful. Moving on to the southeastern part of the lake, you see the outlet. This spot is a spot that you can hit, basically just hitting the weed edges and moving along. There's no structure really on this other than the weed edges. Looking back towards the boat launch, you see that we are flying over currently the deepest part of the lake, and the Point Peninsula in front of you is right off of that, which is one of the best spots, along with the point in the left of the screen, which is the island point, which is also connected to a very deep portion of the lake. Now on to the topographical map. Again, located near Hugo and White Bear Lake, this is the overview of the topographical map. Moving on to the northern portion of the map, you can see here that there's multiple different spots for you to end up fishing. All of these spots do basically revolve around the middle blue section, which is basically just a shallow area. You can basically hit that from any direction as long as you are working it to the tip. Right at that tip is the most success where you are running from 11 feet down to the mid-20s, 30 feet, depending on which side you are on and which tip you are ending at. Obviously on the bottom part of the picture, you can see the point of the island, and then on the right side there is a little bit of a strip that is really good during the summer as far as opportunities during prime time, because you are on basically a weed bed that is just a narrow strip of a weed bed that goes down about 15-20 feet, and casting over the top of that with lures such as like a deep diving crankbait, swim bait that you're running deep, or anything like that can lead to quite a bit of success. The southwest breakdown is a little bit more simple. I don't fish it nearly as much. Like I said, in that circled portion at the top of the map right there, that is that portion that is extremely shallow. That is going to be the spot where you're going to focus on when, like I said, there's a lot of boat traffic. That is a good place for reprieve. Again, hit it early and late evening, and it's good for topwater. And obviously topwater fishing is some of the most enjoyable. That being said, you can hit the outer portion of the reeds, which is the top dotted line arrow going left to right, and then obviously you can also hit the left to right arrow going through the middle of the channel and find the weed edge right there, as the weed edge is fairly deep. This lake is extremely clear. On the top right you can see that circled hotspot, and on the bottom right you can see that circled hotspot as well. Both are options that you can escape out of the bay into some really good spots. So realistically, I would probably spend less than 15-20% of my time here in the Southwest Bay, but when I do spend it there, I am most often spending it casting topwater at the reeds, which again, extremely enjoyable. Moving on to the southeast part of the lake, which I've probably only spent about maybe 10% of my time fishing. I've made about 3 runs, full runs from just shore, going and following the contour of the shore with the iPilot link, and I have not been very successful on this portion of the lake. Not saying you can't be successful on this portion of the lake, I just have not been. That being said, you know, give it a try. I have noticed, based on structure, depth, and everything like that, that I just run the weed edges, and on the right hand side there I did run that arrow a little bit deeper than it needs to be. It should be much more close to the shore than that. For the weed edges, you're running into some areas that are quite a bit deeper than the weeds, based on my arrows there, so I do apologize about that. But again, I don't spend that much time on this portion of the lake. Moving on to the portion of the lake where I have the largest amount of time spent on the littlest amount of water. So basically those 2 circles right there are where I try to end up at prime time on. Probably the best spots for my money are those 2 spots. You're going to be looking at really good weeds on both of them, and they have great drop-offs, great choke points. If you look at the weeds on the right circle, great choke points on that. That arrow that I have running down that line is basically another peninsula underneath the water that you can cast on during the summer. And then obviously you can go on that arrow up towards that circle to the same thing that's on the northern part of the lake. So if I were to break down this, I'd probably say that of the spots that I spend time on, it's these 2 spots, and then the northern lake has that large center mass, and I spend most of my time on those 3 spots. Probably 60% of my time is spent covering water around those. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this breakdown does help you when you fish White Bear Lake and how to fish it, and maybe save you some time hunting good spots on the lake. Stay tuned in, and I will show you when I'm fishing, where I'm fishing on the lake, and when I catch a fish I'll give you a hotspot update and show you exactly where I caught it. So hopefully this breakdown ends up turning into a little bit more of a map of where I've caught fish, and you can use that to fish a little bit better. Thank you again, and this has been Jonas Angling Experience.